He caught his cheating wife with the delivery guy. I guess no one can get rich driving a truck. Ask me how I know. Nevertheless, I drove down the coast, slept overnight before a long drive to the East Coast with a double load. Then an overnight, up the next day if I didn't have to wait for the next load, and back to the West Coast again. It usually takes about 10 to 12 days, and there is no specific schedule. Sometimes I manage to make up time in the Midwest, but my biggest penalty so far is 88 miles per hour. Honestly, I'd go faster if my car could. I lost 20 hours on that trip. But after a few of those instances, I learned my lesson. My wife Deborah took it all in stride. Early in our marriage, she was ready and waiting, and we made love all over the house for hours at a time. Our house was always neat as a pin. There was never a pile of laundry or dirty dishes anywhere. I couldn't even find dust. I guess you could call me content. Deborah once mentioned that she was bored being alone so many days in a row, and I jokingly suggested she get a boyfriend. I expected to hear an instant rejection of the idea, but she hesitated before saying she could never do anything like that. She then surprised me by asking if I'd ever had any outings, as she put it, while I was on the road. The thought of Maria, that cute little thing on the loading dock in Los Angeles, flashed through my mind. A few months ago, I'd asked her out to dinner and she'd said yes. One thing led to another. And, well, you can guess that part of the story. I've never been good at lying, and Deborah knew me well enough to see all my expressions, so I didn't even try. I just told her about Maria. Deborah didn't ask me anything else, so I didn't mention Carol, the waitress from the coffee shop back east. Truth be told, I met a couple other people along the way. All of them free and easy except for one who first asked for a $50 bill. That one was worth a lot more than $50, but it was in Idaho. That's how I racked up 20 hours in one trip. Deborah just nodded. I think she already knew everything. I told her I understood, and if she wanted to do something, as I put it, I didn't mind too much. I just wanted to know about it. I didn't think she would want to, and she vigorously insisted she never could, so we both dropped the subject. I should have thought it odd that she didn't raise a scream, but she didn't. Everything remained in perfect order. The house was neat as a pin, everything was taken care of, and she was ready to make love as soon as I walked in the door. Everything seemed to be in perfect order in life. The only thing I noticed was that she was suddenly into candy company toys, trinkets, little fat plastic things with faces and hands, dispensers, if you could call them that. She had one. They were everywhere in the house after a few trips, I noticed, and asked her about it. "It's just a hobby of mine to collect them," said Deborah to me. "Oh," I said and waved her off. We had a computer in the corner. I even had an email address, but I rarely looked at it. I didn't need Viagra or a Rolex watch anyway, and I certainly wasn't going to send the shipping cost of 10 tons of gold that some Nigerian had stashed in his basement that the government didn't know about. I actually wrote the asshole and told him I had my own truck and would haul it for free. Funny thing is, he never wrote me back. I didn't realize Deborah was spending a lot of money on these things. They were all just pieces of plastic trash. Then came vacation time. Most of the time, Deborah and I went camping, something we could afford. Most of the time, we just sat around camping or messing around in a tent, and it was fun. I even went fishing once, caught a funny-looking brown critter that a guy nearby told me you could eat. I tried to skin it, but ended up getting one of its spikes stuck in my hand. After that, I quit fishing. On our last trip, we went to Reno. Deborah talked me into it because some collectors club she was a member of was having a convention there. She went to a few meetings, but it bored me. So I wandered around looking at everything. Mostly waitresses, my God, they all had visible breasts. I played some stupid 25-cent machine and won $150. I was over the moon until I found out after I got home that the $150 win had cost me $250. It's hard to count when one is drunk, and the waitresses in black dresses with their breasts sticking out from underneath just kept bringing drinks. Deborah and I were having a good time. She even found one of those candy toys at the store and bought it for $30, which just amazed me. It was just a piece of plastic. Then I remembered the snot-nosed delivery guy at my house who opened the door bringing these things. There seemed to be no end to them either. $30. God, Deborah must have 300 of them. But I put that out of my mind. I wanted to play the 25-cent machine some more. It was fun to hear it ding, 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 ding as it drew 600 quarters. It also had those double and triple payouts on it, and if only I could line up 2 of them in a row. With $40 down to no avail, I went in search of Deborah. I wanted to get something to eat. I noticed she was talking to some guy between the machines. I was on one row, and she was on the next row. It was kind of hard to hear over the noise. I don't know why there are half a dozen songs playing at the same time in these places, but there it was, bells all over the place. I stopped and listened when I heard a guy say, "What does 5 sound like?" And Deborah just giggled. Then they turned and headed further down the row, and I hurriedly took the line to get to the other side. When I got there, they were gone. I headed after them and saw them enter the elevator on the other side of the casino. I was too late to catch up with them, so I followed the light. It stopped several times on the way up, and then on the 16th floor it started to go back down, arriving empty. I had no idea which floor it got off on, so there was nothing left for me to do but wait. After wandering around, I found a vending machine with a 5x quarter charge that stood so I could see the elevators. 2 hours and $200 had passed when she came back downstairs alone, and I was all right. "Where did you go?" demanded I. "Oh, I ran into a collector who likes large specimens," she said, smiling at me. She had a stupid bracelet with all the candy on it, so I guess that made sense. "But why go with it?" I was still hesitant. "Oh, he had some really expensive ones that I can't afford, and I wanted to look at them." "Oh, okay, let's go eat." We got home and everything seemed normal, and about a month later, when I went to the yard to pick up my car, it was standing there with the hood up. "Her rod fell out," the mechanic told me. I listened. The car was running, but it was making a loud clanking sound. "They'll bring in another machine, but that will be tomorrow. Everything else isn't working." "Why not bring in another carrier?" I asked. "There's no hurry with that. It's cheaper to wait. Besides, there aren't enough trucks anyway." Anyway, I decided what was the point, got in my pickup truck, and drove home. As soon as I walked into the house, I immediately realized what had happened and walked over to them. Deborah was on her hands and knees, and that snot-nosed delivery guy I didn't like was having a good sex session with her, right in the middle of my living room carpet. I'll tell you, it got pretty hectic. The driver lost his smirk, and Deborah and I shared the sheets. There was a pretty long period of time when I just drove to work and drove without thinking about anything, because if I started to think, I got upset. The house seemed empty when I was home. I had gotten used to those toy trinkets. I never got used to doing my own laundry. It didn't take long, and I had piles here and there. Every once in a while, I would just put it all in trash bags and go buy new stuff. Now I should probably say that I wasn't madly in love with Deborah. I just liked her. Plus, she was a lot of fun to be with. I missed her when I was home, but I didn't miss her at all on the road. At least that's what I told myself. One day, I sat down at my computer and noticed a bookmark for one of those online auction sites. I started poking around there, looking curiously at all sorts of trinkets. I saw one that I had never seen before, so just shocked, I created an account and placed a bid. I called myself Big Dog with some numbers, because when I tried Big Dog, there were already a dozen or so similar names out there. What the heck? 99 cents? I could afford it. A few hours later, I turned the thing back on to check out a few sites I'd discovered, and then an email came up saying I'd been outbid. I went in and looked. The damn thing was up to $6, and someone named D.D. Girl with a bunch of numbers behind him was ahead. I bet $10. That should have fixed it. Not an hour later, I was beaten again. Now I was furious. I raised, the girl raised. I started to hesitate at one bet. It was $95, but I clicked and sent it in. With less than 5 minutes to go, we went back and forth. By then, I had discovered the proxy, so I placed a bet that would have strangled a horse, then the screen loaded and I won. For $475, I must have been beyond thrilled. I thought that maybe I just wouldn't have paid for the thing, and whoever was selling it could always sell it to someone else. But I've never been good at not keeping my word. That was something my father and his big leather Navy belt had instilled in me as a kid. Sighing, I wrote a check when the bill came and was already licking the envelope when I heard the beep of an email. "Hey, big dog, I see you like collecting too? Would you like to sell this? DD girl?" Sort of, yes. "Maybe make me an offer," I replied. "I have plenty of offers, big guy," came the reply with lots of smiley faces. What kind of situation was happening to me, I wondered. "Tell me more." I sent. The next email had a picture, and I realized why she called herself D-Girl. She had breasts the size of half a dollar. It was new and even funny. After a few emails back and forth, I found out she lived less than 50 miles from me, one by one, and she agreed to meet me. But I had a truck to catch, so I arranged to meet when I got back. I was sure it wouldn't work out, but it was worth a try. I drove almost 6,000 miles, thinking about almost nothing but those letters, those pictures. On the day of my return, I was relaxing, sipping a beer, when someone knocked on the door. It was opened by the same snot-nosed delivery guy I'd caught with Deborah. He looked a little upset, but I just signed for the box and closed the door. I opened it, and she looked just like the picture. Yellow with arms and wearing a silly hat. If the arms were involved, she was handing out candy. There was even some candy inside. I ate it. Cute little piece of trash, but $475? Plus shipping? I sighed, went and opened my email. There were probably a dozen emails, all from DD Girl. I clicked on one and sent it, letting her know I was back in town. She must have been living in that computer because I got a reply almost before I could take my hand off the keyboard. "Come over," she said, and sent the address again. Why? I was horny, and this girl had made it clear that I'd get some in exchange for a toy. I showered, shaved, brushed my teeth, then got in my pickup truck and drove 50 miles to the address given. I knocked on the door, and it was opened by a small, chubby blonde with breasts that would make anyone drool. "Big dog, Dan." She smiled at me. "Yeah, you're Katie, right?" "Of course. Is that it?" She looked down at the box I was holding. "Well, come on in." She stepped aside and I walked in. The room was filled with these trinkets, toys everywhere. I held out a box to her and she opened it and looked at it. "Oh, cool! The last one in the series," she exclaimed, looking very happy. Then she put the box on the table and turned to me. "I think I'm going to like this. You're cute," she said, walking over to me and slipping her fingers between the buttons on my shirt. I had her blouse off in about 10 seconds, burying my face into her breasts, which were undoubtedly the same ones she had sent me in the photo. Then somehow we ended up in her bedroom, and I made love to her. Somewhere in the distance some sound was heard, but I was so engrossed in Kathy's sex that I didn't react. Then I heard a woman's voice. "Oh, I'm sorry, Kathy. I didn't know you had someone." The voice sounded familiar, but I was distracted at that moment. I stopped, but the man had already left and closed the door when I looked over my shoulder. I went back to making love to Kathy. "My neighbor, it's okay. We surprised her. We don't do that here very often," she whispered. I tried my best to hold out as long as possible, but eventually there was no more strength left and we lay on the bed together. I beside her for quite a while. I rolled over and we lay in each other's arms. "That was fun. Yeah, I'd practically do you for free," she muttered, nuzzling her face against my neck. She then got up and went to the bathroom to clean herself up. I waited a few minutes and joined her. She used a wet washcloth to dry me off. Then we went into the room and got dressed. "Come in and meet my roommate," said Kathy. I walked in following her, dropped my gaze and stopped. "Deborah?" Dan! Deborah started laughing. She was in full hysterics. Kathy looked back and forth at Deborah and then at me. What's so funny? It's my ex-husband, Deborah managed to say. Oh my God, exclaimed Kathy. Don't worry, it's okay. It's really funny. I wouldn't dream of... She looked at me. You're a big dog? She said, still laughing. Yes. Yes. I nodded. Well, I guess you're pretty big. But buying toys? She was hysterical again. Finally, we all calmed down, and I sat down on the couch next to Katie. I know it sounds weird, but it's actually very easy to talk to someone you've lived with for years. Deborah and I did it almost like I was with her, not just spending a good half hour having sex with her roommate. She told me how she and Kathy met at one of the conventions, and one thing led to another. They both really liked toys, plus they were able to make good money at conventions. I perked up my ears. Do you make money from these things? I asked her. Well, sort of. Deborah and Kathy looked at each other and laughed. We could tell him, Dan's pretty smart and will figure it out anyway. She grinned at Kathy, then at me. Guys, they go to conventions and we make money. You know, their wives buy and trade toys and the guys do us. She looked at Kathy and they both laughed again. Cheaters? I asked. Yeah, I guess you could call it that. She stared at me intently, testing my reaction. A memory of the incident at the casino flashed through my mind, and I opened my mouth to ask, but she read me like a book. Yes, it was $500. 500. Guys actually pay $500 to have sex with you? I muttered. You just did it. For Kathy, she said. I guess I did. Just so you could afford to buy those stupid toys? I asked. Well, that and other things. Let's go look out the window. I got up to look. A late-model Cadillac was parked outside. That's ours. She smiled at me. I smirked at Deborah. I was feeling a little horny again. So, how much for you? I asked her. For you, Dan? Half price. Deborah smiled sweetly at me. And how much is that? I asked. $250. I blinked. But you and I have... I didn't have time to finish my sentence. $250, Dan. Maybe after dinner and drinks? At that, they both burst into laughter. I shrugged and left. All the way home, I thought about it. Maybe I'll try to win some more toys. The end. Subscribe to my channel. Thank you.